Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
My name is James, the man beaten in the Planet FPL derby.
I just want to
Yay!
get it out of the way straight up. But James, I'm just checking here. The game week deadline for the next game week is 11 a.m. on Saturday. So are we going to publish? Because this is an official FPL. It's not an official FPL podcast, but we play the official FPL game. So we're going to publish this at 11:01. Are we publishing this at 11:01 on Saturday for all the regular listeners? You can listen to it, but it ain't going to help you for shit because it's too late and it's past the deadline. Let's not publish it until then.
Literally one of the greatest moments in FPL history. Wasn't even on a football pitch. Honestly, it was so good. The meltdown was so real and live from people.
It must have been deliberate. The timing of it must have been deliberate. Why else would you release something at 6:31?
Yeah, so for those who are unaware, for whatever reason, the fixtures confirming Double Gameweek 26 fixtures was confirmed 1 minute, literally, after the deadline went for Game Week 25. I'm inclined to think, Suj, that it's just a coincidence. Like they don't release their fixtures based on what's happening in Fantasy Premier League, but it's popular enough. And one theory that I did hear was, well, look, the fixtures were going to come out, say 4 or 5 o'clock for those in different time zones. A little bit like with the shifting of the team news, the original deadline from an hour to 90 minutes. Correct. That at least doing it this way, no one benefited. Everyone was in the same position where it was like, you're joking. I was streaming live on YouTube at the time, so I didn't know till about 6:33 where the chat just went fixtures. And my reaction was just to piss myself laughing. I thought it was so hysterical. But the thing was, and was what was trying to say to people
top trolling
all week was, there was a group of teams that we knew were going to double. It was only 11 teams we knew. Yeah. It was just Fulham or Southampton, and do West Brom and Sheffield United have a double or not? That was basically all it boiled down to. So, I mean, it fell for me a little bit better from perspective of fixtures because I own 2 Fulham assets. So the fact that Fulham are playing Tottenham has set me up a little bit better, although arguably makes Kane less appealing maybe for this particular week. But that was hysterical. I mean, if it had come
why would Kane against Fulham be less appealing than Kane against Southampton?
Because they're bloody
Fulham
good.
Defensively right now,
yeah, they're bloody good. Yeah,
really good.
As simple as that. I'd identified a couple of weeks ago that the best double would be Burnley and Southampton, because of the way Southampton play. They're liable to leave themselves to get exploited. Although we'll talk about them in a bit. They didn't do that on Saturday. They probably should have lost in the end, but they set up very defensive against Chelsea and had far less of the ball than what you'd normally anticipate from them. I think what it was that really hacked people off was the whole Southampton thing more than anything. Was, how many do I get, or what do I do with Leeds assets? So everybody kind of wanted to pile into triple Leeds, be it Bamford, Rafinha, Dallas, whatever, but not knowing how they were going to set for 26, depending on the fixtures, was holding a lot of people back. Honestly, if the fixture's been announced at 25 past, I would have bought Rafinha and Alex McCarthy this week, personally. Mm-hmm. But I felt it was better with lack of knowledge to roll another transfer. So all I did was buy Danny Ings for Antonio. That worked out well, didn't it? So far, he's got another game tomorrow.
Yeah. I've seen a few tweets like that. Who sold Ings for Antonio? Listen, Danny Ings has got another game left this game week. To tell us about your game week, James. Tell us about your game week.
Oh, you've thrown me off. Not too bad.
I'm just a little bit warm.
Okay.
Give us a second.
Captain blank so far in Patrick Bamford. Yeah. It's obviously not a blank yet. We're obviously recording this Monday lunchtime prior to Brighton Palace and Leeds Southampton. I'm on 52 points for the week. Clean sweeper, clean sheets defensively. Areola, Stones, Diaz and me. Bonus point for Diaz cancelled out by booking for Ben Mee, so call it 6 points for all of them. That's to 24 points. Bruno Fernandes, 12 points, not helpful because uncaptained. And assist for Calvert-Lewin. Ademola Lookman sitting on the bench, 11 points. In hindsight, easy to say, oh, you should have played him against Sheffield United rather than Soucek against Tottenham. But then that's a hindsight thing.
Yeah. Forget about it.
That's my week.
That's not too bad. I mean, there's still a few left to go. You've got 3 left to play. Ings, Bamford.
Just the two. Ings and Bamford captain. So I'm probably going to end up basically greyish this week, I think.
Yeah. I need an Ings blank, really, to help my game week. I've had a solid game week this week, James, and I couldn't say it was luck, but it has played out quite nicely. There was one piece of luck in there, which hasn't played out yet, but it could well, which was my move was going to be the same as yours, Antonio to Danny Ings. And guess what? I didn't have enough money. I literally.
Did you not realise this, or?
No, I hadn't planned it out properly before. I thought I'd had it covered. It was fine, and I could make another move somewhere or whatever. I didn't have enough money. I literally looked at it and I was like, oh, and this is not days before. This was in the couple of hours. I left my decision making late because I thought we might get fixtures. Went to click. Oh, insufficient funds. And before I could think about it, I knew I didn't want to daisy chain and make 2 other moves and all the rest of it. So what's the next best thing I can do? I'll sell Sufal and buy Yannick Vestergaard. Job done. So I made that move thinking Southampton have got a potential for doubles and what have you. And if not in game week 26 against Spurs, then I'll be able to just catch that up. And left Antonio and Calvert-Lewin on the bench. Jay's getting colours out. Now, I'll put my West Ham shirt on. So Jay's got his Tottenham t-shirt on. Don't worry, James. I got you covered. I'm getting a bit cold.
I have to go and get my scarf as well. Basically, I'm still proud.
Cold in my office here.
Suj disappeared for the benefit of those on the audio. Suj disappeared for a second. He was like, "Oh, I'm hot." I was like, "What are you doing, you unprepared bastard?" And I started talking. I looked up. This bastard's right put me off because all now I can see is his West Ham shirt. So I was like, right, none of that. All right, bollocks. I'm going to go and change as well. I've just disappeared to put my Tottenham shirt on.
No, I'm a bit cold today, James. So I'm going to make sure I wrap up warm with my woolly hat over my headphones and everything. There we go.
Can I just say, Suj, for the benefit of those on the audio, has now put a West Ham scarf on and a West Ham hat, and the hat has come over his massive headphones. You really look like Where's Wally, mate? Just in different.
I thought you were going to say that the dude from AFTV, Ty, who always has the big red.
A little bit, actually, yeah, and Ty, yeah, which is the same thing as what I said the first time.
So what you lost when you took your headphones off, James, is I sold Sufal for Vestergaard. I thought that's a simple, straightforward move. I don't mind keeping Vestergaard longer term. Like we're talking until a wild card in game week 30. They've got all right enough reasonable fixtures. Goal threat still there. And had he not hit the bar, I would be laughing with that move because he had a great effort that hit the bar. Obviously, he's got a 3-pointer at the moment because he picked up a bonus point and a game to go. But it's the defence that has done well for me. Pope and Lowton, double clean sheet, and both got BPS. This is what happens with Burnley. I saw Mark Southerns on Black Box a while ago made a really interesting point. When Pope gets a clean sheet, he very rarely gets 6 points. It's always 8 or 9 because he always picks up bonus points at the same time.
9 or 10.
Yeah, a clean sheet for Pope is not a 6-pointer. It's way more. Whereas Edison, for example, is never in the BPS unless he's picking up assists. So Lowton and Pope did well for me. Cancelo and Diaz standard. I think most people had a cut 2 City defenders, so it wasn't really advancing me forward, but I kept track. Rashford was the one that really played well for me as a 12-pointer. I've been holding on to him for the West Brom game and this game he delivered. Can't argue with that. Although the penalty maybe was a little bit soft. And Pep did me a massive favour by leaving Phil Foden on the bench for the entire game. And so Antonio, who I would have sold for Danny Ings, comes into the team to give me a nice 7-pointer. And thanks to everyone that liked and replied to my tweet saying that Antonio on the bench ruined my weekend. I think a lot of people missed the irony in that one, James.
I didn't.
Oh, dear. Yeah, so 68 points at the moment,
nice.
Which takes me well into the top million now. Good. And I'm set up with 9 players for the double game week. 9 players with a double game week in game week 26, which is decent. The irony is that all the transfers I want to make or have in my mind to make are double game week players to other double game week players. It's not a single game week player to a double game.
Okay, so you're still intending to play a couple of singlers, are you?
Yeah, I reckon I'll end up with at least one and probably two single game week players next week. Because my single game week players, Dallas, Bamford, Antonio, Souček, and Vestergaard, I want them for game week 29.
Well, I don't know what.
Vestergaard.
I was going to say that's the only thing in terms of the Soufal to Vestergaard move. You got one gain here, but you've cost yourself somewhere else.
Yeah. So let's wait and see what I do with that at the moment. And so that's my big thing at the moment is I've got 9 doublers, 9 decent doubles, Pope and Loughton, 3 City, double Manchester United, and Mo Salah and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So just going to have a think about what I do here.
So
inevitably end up.
Who's the doublers you want to get rid of then?
Well, there's
no.
They're
all reasonable. Those 9, mate.
There's no one that I want to get rid of. It's more if I want to try and find an advantage because I've got two free transfers. The types of things I'm looking at would be Salah to Kevin De Bruyne, Rashford to James Maddison or Harvey Barnes, because I think Maddison might have a knock, but let's see. Harvey Barnes. That gives me enough money to then maybe think, you know what, sack off Bamford and upgrade him to someone with a double. But these really feel like they could potentially be sideways moves that won't necessarily benefit me, and I'm not really that excited and enthused about making any sideways moves in this double game week.
I've landed on 11 doublers.
Oh, lovely.
A shame that 2 of them are goalkeepers.
Okay, but, that doesn't help.
So yeah, no, it doesn't. So
I could count 10 doublers then if I wanted Areola in there, but he's not able to play ahead of Pope.
Stole your thunder on the joke, mate. So yeah, I've got 2 frees as well, so that leaves me in a strong position. Bamford, Ings, Souček, Soufal being the single game week players in the squad. Souček, Soufal was always earmarked to leave on the bench for this week anyway, with Manchester City away. So it's just a case of Bamford, Ings. What do I remove? Is it one? Is it both? And play it from there. That's where I'm at. It's probably Bamford to Kane. Do I go Ings to Watkins? Is probably the other one. That would then mean leaving either Lookman or Ben Mee on the bench. But no rush to do anything. No early transfers because, I mean, let's just say hypothetically that Mo Salah was to get injured in midweek, or Bruno Fernandes, or that's going to completely shove my thinking.
Of course, and even the Leeds players and Southampton players could pick up a knock because they've got their game on Tuesday.
Yeah, might even help that I'll be binning up. To be honest, if I don't sell Ings or Bamford, I'll be leaving one of them on the bench this week. I will definitely go with a double game week player.
Yep. The single game week players that are in my team as it's bust at the moment are Bamford. I think the home game against Aston Villa, who have been a bit leaky, they're not quite right at the moment, is okay. Always play the striker, and Vestergaard, who's in ahead of Dallas, but I'm not convinced to believe on that at the moment, to be honest with you.
No, I wouldn't be. I think I'd go Dallas over Vestergaard.
I think so, especially after Everton are going to be high after their derby win at the weekend. It wasn't the only underdog derby victory at the weekend.
Thanks for you admitting you're the underdog, because the bookies couldn't split us, mate. So,
well, I think when we talk about underdogs or who's the bigger team or whatever, we take a much more longer term view on it, in the fact that Tottenham are more established in the top 6.
More established. Stuff, Just say what you wanted to say, boy. Bigger club.
Yeah, you're a bigger club. No, you're a bigger club, but we're fucking massive. That's all we've got to say. I don't know where this phrase has come from, but it's become massive. A meme.
It's from the West Ham clips, isn't it?
Yeah.
He always says that, doesn't he?
It's now become
massive.
Yeah, it's become an in-joke running meme between all the fans now. We just keep saying we are fucking massive. It's quite funny, but good. There's quite a few games to talk about. We've had 9 of the 11 of the game week, and we'll get into it. Wolves 1, Leeds 0, and this is probably a great time to talk about our friend Andy, FPL_tactician Martin. I've been admiring his bathrobe for a while because it's a beautiful claret. It's West Ham claret, mate. I've been thinking about, just getting one the same
to
represent.
Andy came on Clash to Correspondence last week with Bradley Parker to preview Wolves Leeds and obviously Leeds double game week. So released the podcast for that at about 12 o'clock on Thursday. At 6:35 on Thursday afternoon, Andy tweeted the following. Definitely due a kind of goal where the ball hits the woodwork and as the ball comes out, it bounces off the arse of the keeper and goes in for an own goal. Like Nostradamus, mate.
Yeah. I mean, I was telling you off air, anybody can find a tweet that someone might have put out like 2 years ago or 3 years ago or whatever, predicting something or saying something, and then they're contradicting themselves, whatever. There's plenty of that goes on. This is 24 hours before to predict something like that.
And it happened against his team.
Your own team in a game that ended up being a 1-0 win for the opposition. Yeah. I mean, you can't write that kind of stuff.
Technically, it's incorrect, though, because it came off Meslier's back rather than his bum. But, I mean, it's unbelievable. So I got tagged in. Someone was like, have you seen Andy's tweet? I was like, well, I see all Andy's tweets. But it's like, no, the one yesterday. Oh my God. Wow, that is incredible. Sorry, Andy. We love you, mate, but it is well worth a mention. Give Andy 100%. A follow, FPL Tactician on Twitter.
The first thing I did when I saw the tweet had been retweeted by a lot of people was check the date. Like, I was like, when did he say this? Like, it must have been a couple of years ago or something. Nah, day before. Then I was really, okay, nice.
That's staggering. The best bit is as well, because of Andy. Andy does like 3 big predictions every week, and they're always a little bit out there. Not quite like this, but it'll be like, this 1% differential is going to go off this week. And his predictions are normally so shit. I'm not going to lie to you. He has absolutely nailed this. Unbelievable.
In the end,
should we talk about the game?
Yeah. I mean, in the end, a 1-0 win for Wolves. I don't know if you could say that it necessarily should have been a Wolves win. Maybe a draw would have been a better result, or Leeds maybe.
I mean, Andy's triple captains Rafinha as he promised he would do.
Those 2 bonus points for Rafinha now.
Well, they're thoroughly deserved. six key passes, 3 big chances created in the game. It was the outstanding performer on the pitch by absolute miles. He could have massive hauled here, and that he could do tomorrow against Southampton as well. Bamford owners, you've had a goal fractionally called out for offside. Meslier owners, obviously, Meslier went from 10 points to 1 point with that own goal as well. Cost him, because he was on for top bonus, cost him effective 9 points. And obviously would have cancelled out Stuart Dallas's clean sheet as well. So if you had the Leeds assets for the game, I mean, you could have had brilliant returns out of it, and you've ended up with next to nothing, unfortunately. Although I'm sure Rafinha owners they're disappointed, but must be pleased to get 2 bonus points from a midfielder in a 1-0 defeat. For Wolves, very quietly, they've got 10 points in 4 games. And I'm not sure they particularly deserved it. It shouldn't have won this game Friday. They shouldn't have beat Arsenal the other week. Southampton should have had them battered by half time in game week 24. But quietly, they've turned it around, pulled themselves away from any threat of being in danger, which I guess had they lost all 4 of these games, they really would have been looking over their shoulder. So they pulled away a little bit. Wolves do have the double game week coming up with Newcastle and Manchester City. I've not seen a single soul talk about Wolves asset. So I think, because I think even commonly in the past, you'd have gone, oh, there's probably a cleanie at St. James's Park in the first of those 2 games. I might take that as part of a double. But the way Newcastle have changed recently, I don't even think you'd be confident of that, would you? So then it's Villa and Liverpool afterwards as well. As highlighted before with Wolves, absolutely brilliant run from game week 31, which is that period where a lot of people are now obviously thinking of using the second wild card, and I will almost definitely have something from Wolves there just because that run is so great, but zero interest at the moment. What people do with the Leeds assets this week is going to be heads or tails for a lot of people. Like, do you start with your Bamfords or your Rafinhas? There'll obviously be people who have them as part of bench boosts, which is completely acceptable, by the way. It's absolutely fine. But I think there might be a lot of people like me, if for whatever reason I didn't sell Bamford this week, I probably would still leave him on the bench, actually.
I'm not sure where I'd go to with Wolves assets. Neto is the one that always stands out as a decent shout, but 5.7 million, I think there's better options elsewhere.
Well, it's Rafinha for a start.
For a start, who's a bit cheaper, but you look, dare we say, J-Ling's only 0.2 more. There's other assets in and around that 5-6. Even if you don't own Souček, you might even consider that. So I like the thought of Neto, but not really. Johnny Otter's back in. I mean, okay, he's a 59.
Makes a big difference.
He's a 59-minute hero at the weekend, but I've got a lot of fond memories of Johnny from owning him a year ago. But the problem is that he's now 5.4 million, whereas a year ago we were buying him as a 4.5 million defender. I don't think I can stretch the 5.4 for him, which means that who else do you go to? And there's no one really there that interests me. I've got two assets from Leeds. Rafinha's a good one to add, but doesn't help my squad structure, so it's not an option for me. And I'm definitely not going to do it now anyway.
I would expect goals in that game tomorrow night between Leeds and Southampton, so returns incoming still, I believe.
Yeah, that's why captaincy on Bamford is fine. I'm not worried too much about how that's going to play out in the next 48 hours.
The effective ownership of him was even more than what I'd anticipated. It was absolutely huge. It almost doesn't do anything for you if you get the returns out of him.
Yep. On the Saturday, we started off with Southampton 1, Chelsea 1. I mean, Chelsea played well. I think, especially in the first half, they did everything they needed to, other than kind of put the ball in the back of the net or be a little bit ruthless. And Southampton get their counter-attacking goal. Minamino, he's doing what he needs to do to get into the Liverpool team, isn't he?
Great finish, although I was screaming at the TV, shoot. But then as he finished it, I went, okay. Then. You know what you're doing. Great goal. Brilliant finish. He's priced.
It's like when quite often some big clubs will buy a player and then they don't get the minutes, and then we never know what they're really capable of, you know? Like a Donny van der Beek at Manchester United, for example. They bought him. Doesn't really play. He was highly touted before he joined. We don't know if he's ever going to be any good because he's never going to get in at Bruno. Minamino is in that same bracket. They bought him. Don't know if he's really good enough to make it in the Premier League because he never gets any minutes or enough minutes at Liverpool. But now that he has getting minutes, he's got returns in the last 3 games. Two in the last 3.
Two of the last 3, isn't it? Yeah, he's 6 million. You'd rather buy him than Neto. I think that to go back to your point about Neto, particularly with obviously the double coming up in 27 as well, which is extremely contrasting when they've got Sheffield United and Manchester City as part of their double. If you were to retain the assets, I think that makes you more interested in the attacking assets, even though you could say, there's a possible clean sheet against Sheffield United in the first game. I think it makes you more inclined to want to keep the attacking players. Danny Ings may well move for me, though. I think I see how I'm set come Friday, but it could well be that he moved. I obviously bought him with the fingers crossed that he'd have the 3 doubles in a row. Otherwise, I'm not sure I would have bothered at all, actually. Because I would have looked at Antonio this week versus basically Ings against Everton and then wondered, what's better for me? And I think I would have come to the conclusion of Antonio versus Tottenham, actually, and saving the transfer or using it somewhere else. So he could well go for me in spite of the 27 double. There'll be people out there sitting there who've gambled on 3 doublers and are now, what do you do? Well, if you were setting for the bench boost and it's not worked out for you, it's obviously it's unfortunate. I always thought it was more likely that Tottenham would play Southampton rather than Fulham because it was the original. Every other rearrangement they've done has been in order in terms of when the fixture was meant to be played. Southampton is still in the cup. I think the reason it's not happened is Southampton were having a whinge, weren't they, about playing 3 midweeks in a row?
Right. Okay.
Which I understand, but it's potentially going to cause a little bit more of a headache. I mean, as it stands, should Tottenham get to the Europa League final, in terms of if people thinking, when's this game going to be played? Should Tottenham get to the Europa League final, it could only be in game week 32 or game week 37. However, Tottenham won't get to the Europa League final, so there's a number of weeks that it could be played. But
I think they're probably banking on that.
We are almost certainly through to the last 16, in which case the earliest it could be played is game week 30. What it means, just as a caution on Southampton assets going forward, is that it could mean that Southampton and Tottenham play in 32 and whatever they get postponed in 32 because maybe they're in the FA Cup semi-final, it possibly goes into 33 or 34 or something like that. So it might be that Southampton, in the end, their double fixture doesn't become a double as such. So it could actually be that it's a double for Tottenham in 1 week and then Southampton have a double in another week. The other interesting thing is it's not impossible, should Tottenham go out in, say, the quarterfinals of the Europa League, that it could actually be in game week 33, which we've earmarked as possible for a free hit. And 2 of the teams that obviously blank Tottenham and Southampton.
Yeah.
Because Southampton were meant to play Man City, Tottenham were meant to play Fulham, which would then mean the only two teams that blank is Man City, Fulham, and then that probably annuls the
free hit.
It's a possible scenario, just to make you aware of that. Yeah, it could even possibly end up in there.
Will we know that before game week 29?
No. Right. No chance. Literally none.
If anybody's holding their free hit up, it's like for me, if I knew that I could navigate that by just benching my City players or hop on, hop off at least one of them, then I might be tempted with my free hit in game week 29 and get 11 players.
When I say literally none, that's not factually correct, but extremely unlikely that you would know when that Tottenham Southampton game is going to take place once 29 comes around. There's literally no benefit in them announcing that fixture before they know if Tottenham have got through to the Europa League quarterfinals or not. Literally no benefit. So you've got the international break, which is a 2-week break as well. So it's not like it might feel 29 to 30 is quick, but it's not. It's a 2-week break, right? Just on that, what I remember as well, Villa Everton, no announcement on 28. I think Ben Crellin's highlighted this as well, that it could be impactful in terms of whether Tottenham and Arsenal are both drawn at home in the second leg of the Europa League. Because obviously Tottenham are playing at 5 o'clock this Wednesday because UEFA don't allow two teams from the same city to play at home on the same day. Okay. Hence why Tottenham playing 5. I mean, it's ridiculous when no fans can go, but whatever, it is what it is. So should that happen again, Tottenham would then again likely play at 5 o'clock on a Wednesday. And that's probably what would rule out Aston Villa and Everton for 28. So it could still happen. You're probably not going to find out about that before deadline this week either, unless it's possible it could be announced on Friday. But I still think it's a strong possibility that Villa and Everton could happen in 28. I still think that's possible.
Chelsea assets. We know Mason Mount's on penalties, do we? Or don't we?
Well, I guess Jorginho's first choice and Mason Mount, if not. I would say this performance really struck me this time, because I probably get asked once every stream that I do, well, what about Mason Mount? And I'm a bit... This is the first time I thought, yeah, do you know what? If fixtures were in a different position, etc., he would begin to be interested in me now, because he really is playing a higher position now than what he was playing for Frank Lampard. That's interesting.
Well, game week 30, they go on a really good run. West Brom, Palace, Brighton, West Ham, Fulham. So that 5-game stretch, when people are looking at wildcarding, might be the time to look at Chelsea assets. Prior to that, I mean, they're going to Man United and Liverpool, 2 tough games, and then Everton and Leeds before the blank. So
I would say 90% I will buy a Chelsea player in game week 30.
Yeah, me too.
Because then I'm probably wildcarding in 31, and then it's a case of do I keep or not. So I could buy it as a 1-week punt there and then. So, them playing West Brom at home in game week 30, I could easily see me going, yeah, I'll take a 1-week punt on a Timo Werner in a fixture like that or similar. But it's not going to happen for me at the moment. I'm going to go into the double with no Chelsea. I thought this game would give us an understanding of where we're at with Chelsea a little bit more, because Southampton like to get in your face. Southampton didn't. There was a lot of talk pre-game and also bizarrely on commentary in-game for the whole game about Southampton playing a back 3, which it wasn't. It was a back 4. It was the same system. Bednarek played at right back and Salisu played quite well left-sided centre-half. It was still a back 4. It was just Bednarek's obviously not going to play the position like Cole Walker-Peters does, quite obviously. So we didn't really get the answer yet in terms of what happens when someone tries to get in Chelsea's face. Now, the double's obviously not easy. It's United at home and Liverpool away, but maybe it's not as bad as it looks. I mean, at the moment, I could see them winning at Liverpool at the moment.
Yep.
So, but I'm not going to go into their assets. Still too much uncertain. We still don't know about Reece James and Chilwell, do we? Not got a clue.
No.
Hudson-Odoi lasted 35 minutes, which I thought was really harsh. Tuchel said he wasn't happy with his counter-pressing, but I thought he was causing a threat to Southampton. Tammy Abraham looked like he got a serious injury on the Monday against Newcastle, but then lasted only 45 minutes. Tuchel wasn't happy with his performance either. Jorginho didn't play, and it might be that's what he was part unhappy with, was a little bit more stability in terms of the fact they had so much of the ball, but in the first half, it didn't really create a lot. It was really through Mount's driving runs and stuff in the second half that opened the game up a little bit, and I think Southampton got a bit tired. I felt Chelsea didn't do enough, really. They probably should have won the game, but didn't really do enough.
Burnley 0, West Brom 0. I put a tweet out on Saturday morning. I felt like just soaking in some positivities. Ask people what they're doing at the weekend, non-football related, just to see what people are up to. The number of people that replied back, going to watch Burnley West Brom at 3 o'clock. I was like, either there's one of two things. You either got double Burnley defence, or you're really old and need an afternoon nap of some sort. And even Jack, our Burnley correspondent, said he was going to watch the game. I was like, I'll let him off. But he's young enough not to need an afternoon nap yet.
He's also his team.
Yeah. He's let off the hook. 0-0.
Do you know what I did for it?
Washing up.
Well, I'm old enough. I'm old enough, so I took a nap. I watched it late at night. I had to take a kip. I was knackered. What I watched back, I was obviously pretty surprised about, because I obviously knew what had already happened and stuff. But you think from the red card, you think, oh, Burnley go and win that.
They should go and win that.
But West Brom had all the chances. It just doesn't suit Burnley to have more of the ball. Even in the 3-0 win at Palace, they had less of the ball, right?
Yeah.
They just, if someone sits off Burnley, it's a bit. And the other thing is, with Goodmanson and Brady both injured, they've lost one of the options in terms of creativity, in terms of crossing from the right-hand side, unless Loughton gets really high. So if you then stop that twin threat of Taylor and McNeil, which we've spoken about a number of times in the past, their creativity is zilch, mate. And that causes a big, big problem when suddenly West Brom go, oh, we're a man short. Best way we can win this is draw them on. And, I mean, particularly Pereira, how has he not scored in that game? The chances they missed, incredible. Don't know what's going on with Diane's hair. We'd have to ask Gemma about that on COTC this week. But West Brom should have won in the end. And actually, it's been a positive week for them, right? They could have beat Man United as well last week.
Yeah,
it's too little, too late.
I said it was the best 10-man performance he'd seen ever, or some nonsense like that. I don't know if I'd go that far, but
no, I definitely would not go that far. I can think of it. To be fair, I can think of a few Arsenal performances under Wenger with 10 men where they still went and ripped people apart. West Brom have got Brighton, Everton, and Newcastle 3 home games in a row. And if they win all 3, they still won't stay up. So
yeah, probably not. But in terms of assets and stuff, still not many that catch the eye. But the one that I wanted to ask you about, whether or not he's really worth it, would be Maitland Niles, because he's a 4.6 million defender, possibly playing out of position in midfield, stroke pushing forward a little bit. And at OOP, in a team that are really fighting for survival at 4.6.
I suppose if you were buying one defensively and looking to add to a bench boost, i.e. you want a bench boost and it's not dropped the way you'd anticipated. I don't know, say you're sitting there with Vestergaard, Bednarek or whatever, and you're thinking, I haven't got the money, I need to buy someone at similar value who I'm then happy to leave on the bench in further upcoming game weeks. Yeah, okay, you could do worse. He would be the choice. I would go him or Pereira or Diagne. And the goalkeeper's reasonable. I mean, with that double, Brighton and Everton at home, well, I know they're both playing okay at the moment, but they're both capable of having bad days in front of goal. And then you do drop then on Newcastle and Crystal Palace afterwards as well. So there's part why I asked Gemma to come back on this week again, because she was like, look, we're going to get battered prior to Man United. I'm looking at it now and going, these 4 fixtures, could they be someone that you're overlooking for the double? I just think, generally speaking, you are only buying probably if you are looking for that extra player for a bench boost and you can't afford to go elsewhere. But there probably are other ones. I mean, even though if you take Fulham as an example, they've got some cheap defensive assets. Palace, Tottenham, on the face of it, I would say is similar double and possibly a little bit more chance of clean sheets maybe than West Brom's too. The counter argument to that would be Fulham then have Liverpool and Manchester City afterwards. But then, of course, Fulham also covers you for 29 if you're carrying through. Yeah. And ordinarily, if you're Fulham defensive, you go, okay, right, leave it on the bench. So it probably depends where people are at. I think to buy a West Brom player, you're probably looking at bench boost in 26. You need the extra, and you're probably free hitting in 29. Which I think the way it's dropped, like with Villa, Tottenham, and Fulham all doubling 26 and all playing 29. I don't think many people are on that now. I think some are still stuck there, thinking, yeah. And listen, if you've landed on 26 and you've got no coverage from Fulham, Villa and Tottenham and you don't want any, then of course it's completely reasonable that you would still do that.
Yeah, I'm playing my Burnley defensive assets this week. Some people will have dilemmas over, like I've got Pope versus Areola. Areola's got a good double. But I'm going to stick with Pope for the double and Loughton for the double.
Pope I think in most cases you should play in a double. The counter one is maybe Martinez, but otherwise, even though the fixtures are harder, I think you should probably play Pope. Like Pope versus Areola, I think I'd say, yeah, do you know what? Areola's fixtures are a little bit better, but I would probably play Pope. The one to argue against Martinez, particularly in Martinez's case, he's going to have to make saves against Leeds. That's a certainty. And then Sheffield United afterwards, you can see as a 6-pointer to go on top, can't you? So I think Martinez over Pope. Otherwise, yeah, Pope versus the likes of Areola and Johnson and stuff, even with the tougher fixtures, I think, yeah, play Nick Pope, like you said, man. One clean sheet and he's 8-9 points. So even if he doesn't do nothing in the other one, he easily get you 10-11 points.
Still 10.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure if I'm going to play Ben Mee, by the way. I'm not decided yet. I'm very relaxed about it because I know there's no point overthinking it if someone gets injured during the European fixtures or whatever. And I'll decide at the weekend. But it could be that, like I said, me or Lookman is 11th man for me. And I'm not sure that's a straightforward choice. Selecting me is different to selecting Pope.
Yeah, agreed. You're talking about Andy Martin being good at predicting things and planning for the future. Now, a lot of people who listen to Clash of the Correspondents won't necessarily know, but you plan that quite far well out in advance on who's going to be coming in, depending on which games they are and rotating it, all the rest of it. This week, you have got Gemma on, as you mentioned. You also have a certain Sean at Spirit_Blues, Everton correspondent. Really looking forward to hearing from him because I feel like it's been a little while since we had a good chat, or you've had a good chat and talked to Everton. But what timing to get Sean on?
Well, Sean's not been on. Sean's not been on for ages, and I'll tell the truth. That was originally I thought it was going to be Everton Villa in the double, so I'd lined up Sean and Adam Hopcroft to come on this week, and we've organised that those two will come on whenever that. So if that happens in 28, we're going to get the boys on and do an extra one, in case they have that double. But I was a little, geez, am I really getting Sean on after they get spanked by Liverpool? and
you're getting Sean on after they spanked Liverpool.
So to be honest, I was sitting there, it was literally the last thing I figured on my stream Friday night. I was like, oh shit, I've got no Clash of Correspondents next week. Let me start thinking about what I'm going to do. And I thought, shall I wait till after Liverpool before I mention it to Sean? I was like, no. Let's get it booked in. Let's get the guys on this week because it just worked out with West Brom's fixtures as well, actually. And so from that perspective, I was really pleased that they won because
super happy. Just
honestly,
for him as well.
Reds fans, skip that on Thursday. I don't blame you. Just skip it, honestly. He'll be so happy,
hearing
Sean.
His thoughts.
But he's waited 21 years, hasn't he? He's allowed to enjoy it.
Post-mortem, please, James, on Liverpool, because there comes a point where this placing the blame on injuries and the lack of VVD, etc., starts becoming a little bit like, really, is one person that important to your team that you capitulated from title winners and playing really well and brushing everyone aside to not losing a home game for 4.5 years to losing 3 or 4 now, is it? Whatever. It feels like the blame and the excuses being on something as simple as just the VVD or defensive issues is probably not quite right. I feel like there's more to it than that.
No, there definitely is. We only have to look at the numbers. Listen, the injuries defensively are chronic, right? You've got Matip, Gomez, Fabinho, and now Henderson as well. There's 5. It's 5. 5. I know that Elite FPL Steve is going to cut that now of a clip of fucking Booker T going 5 times as well. No context, Planet FPL. Hi, Steve. So you have to. I feel sorry from that perspective. That is mortal bad luck. However, I think this a lot with Tottenham at the moment. Best form of defense, attack. And attacking
you guys,
is not
100%. Yeah.
Well, we'll get on to that. But same kind of applies for Liverpool, right? They are so good offensively when they're good offensively. Just blow teams away. They've scored, I think it's 15 less goals than the first 25 games of last season. So, I mean, that's quite a drop-off over 25 games when you think about it. There's more than half a goal a game drop-off. That's sizable. And they're just not clicking.
Do you know about goals conceded? Just out of chance. I don't know if you've got that stat, but I feel like they might have conceded more goals as well. I think
you might have. Are you joking, Suj? I do know. I don't know actually, but I think they'd conceded only 15 first 25 last season. And I think they're on about 36 now, I want to say.
Whoa, so that's a net swing of 35 goals.
It's about 150% increase in goals conceded.
That is ridiculous. So, I mean, if you consider the number of fewer goals scored and the number of more goals conceded, that is a massive swing.
Of course it is. But it's worth saying, just to go back, the problems were probably there even before. They conceded 11 goals in the first 4 games this season. Now, I know there was the one mad Villa one, but they also beat Leeds 4-3. To think of that. So I'm saying at this stage last season, they conceded 15 goals. With Van Dijk in the first 4 games this season, they conceded 11.
Yeah.
There were problems that were already coming from game week 1. And to be honest, go back into the restart period and some of the defending now probably dates back all the way back to the Watford game, the first defeat when fans were still going last February and stuff. I think they've probably been hit harder than anyone with the lack of crowds because of the style, the way they play, intensity. They just can't find it at the moment. They had a spell in Leicester in the first half. They had it in small bursts against Leipzig in midweek in the Champions League. And with them, it's like every time they have a good result, you think, oh, maybe they'll... But then they have to set back again. Mm. And in the second half, don't get me wrong, it was grim for quite a while for Everton at 1-0, where I'm sure every Evertonian was thinking, bollocks, they're going to score. And Pickford made a couple of really important saves. I have to give him a shout out because we batter him every week, right?
Yeah,
he actually made some big saves in this game, and Everton were better for having him back in goal rather than Olsen. But it was some heroic defending, particularly Michael Keane's tackle on Sadio Mane's probably tackle of the season, because I think Mane's scoring. And wow, where's the ball gone? Godfrey, brilliant. Holgate, really good. They obviously played a 5-3-2. They went there to frustrate Liverpool. More teams are going to do that. Go with 5-3-2 or play with diamonds, because the thing with Liverpool before was always shit. The problem with a diamond, for example, not that this is what it kind of worked that way for Everton within a back 5, because Rodriguez obviously drops deeper than where Richarlison was playing. But the fear always with Liverpool was whenever someone played a diamond against them, you go, well, Trent and Robertson will kill you.
Yeah.
But at the moment, he doesn't feel like that.
No.
So teams are just narrowing the pitch a little bit more and saying, okay, do you know what? We now believe we can deal with you defensively in the wide areas. Because for whatever reason, like that Robertson-Mane combination, it's not really there. That Trent ball for Salah over the top, it's not really happening, even though Trent's trying it a lot, as proven from the 45 times they give the ball away against Leicester. They're just not at it. I can't believe they've got a double game week that includes Sheffield United, and I wouldn't even dream of buying one of their players at the moment. I think if I was free hitting this week, I'd be very tempted to go with none. I think there's every chance Chelsea will beat them next week at the moment.
I'm still suffering a little bit from the fear though, James. You still own Salah, right?
And I probably will keep Mo Salah this week. Yes.
I'm just looking at two of the next 3 being Sheffield United in the double, and then Fulham the week after. But that Fulham game is looking less and less attractive by the minute for Liverpool, which is why seeing Kevin De Bruyne come back into the Manchester City team made me think Kevin De Bruyne's expensive. I don't have the money lying around in the bank, so Salah would be the make weight for Kevin De Bruyne. I might just bin him off and move to Kevin De Bruyne, but we'll have to see.
I'd be going to Son if I make the move. I mean, I couldn't go to De Bruyne without selling another Manchester City player.
Yeah, I'd sell Foden.
I wouldn't be selling Gundogan personally.
No,
that's fair enough in your case. So it would be Son for me, and obviously now I have landed that I could do it as 2 free transfers, and have 11 doublers, and that's something I need to give some thought. I wouldn't rule that out as a possibility, because I'd look at 26 and go, yeah, look, of course Salah could outscore Son. But then from the period from 27 to 29, bearing in mind Tottenham got Palace in 27 as well. Yes, 28's not good for either, with Liverpool having Wolves and Tottenham having Arsenal. Then you've got the bonus of the 29 fixture, which is Aston Villa. And then if I'm wildcarding in 31, I've got Son against Newcastle rather than Salah against Arsenal. And if I look at it over that longer period, then there's every temptation that I could make that move.
Are you thinking of adding to your Everton assets in Dominic Calvert-Lewin? They've got the double. They are playing well. They're on form. I just don't know where you would go, because it feels like a lot of the clubs where you're looking at cheap options, there's better, cheaper options. And some of the Everton assets in the likes of Gylfi and Luca Dean and so on, there's better expensive options because those guys are priced a little bit expensive. Just a quick shout out to my mate Kevin Chetty because I gave him a ha when both Sigurdsson and Calvert-Lewin, who he played and are in his team, were not.
He's got
starting.
Sigurdsson. What kind of an FPL manager is this?
Well, better than me at the moment. And both, well, he had Sigurdsson and Calvert-Lewin, mate. And what happened? They both came off the bench and returned. So I'll give him that.
It was on Rob Chetty and Sham's podcast last week, the Happy Hour podcast. And I think I gave probably one of the best answers I've ever given on a podcast on that show last week. One of the questions was best replacements for Dean and Calvert-Lewin. And my answer was none, keep them. Because of the potential impact of, I mean, the double has landed even better than we thought it would. Because I thought it would probably be Villa rather than West Brom. So that's now really attractive. Southampton and West Brom. I see a few mutterings of people talking about Calvert-Lewin, triple captaincy. We'll talk about that sort of thing on tomorrow's podcast. And obviously the potential for still the 28 double, which would still be nice, right? Burnley at home and Villa away. It's not bad as a double game week, right? So I could me to Dean this week is a possibility for me. I would do that rather than Soufal because I want Soufal in 29. That's a possible. I look at Ben Mee's fixtures and I think, oh, okay, the double fine. Arsenal at home, the fixtures I've got of other players and probably not playing him. Everton away 28, not playing him. Southampton away 30, I'm not playing him. So therefore he's actually expendable for me. And on paper, he's got the toughest double of all the assets I've got probably. So he's possibly expendable. And if there's the gain of Dean to potentially have that 28 fixture as well, then great. If not, it's Burnley at home in 28. I'm still going to play him. So I could depend. That's if I was to make a defensive transfer this week, that's almost definitely it. Ben Mee to Luca Dean, I think.
We talk about Fulham 1, Sheffield United 0. I mean, credit to you for owning any Fulham assets, let alone the fact that both Areola and Lookman returned. I know he was on your bench.
To be honest, I didn't overthink it as well because I thought it's a good chance Gundogan won't play for City, right? So I thought when he's first sub, to be honest, I didn't give it enough thought. I'd put my hands up on that.
We have to start taking Fulham seriously. We are taking Fulham seriously. I'm sure Newcastle are looking over their shoulder a little bit. The likes of Palace, Burnley, Brighton know that they can't take their foot off the gas because Fulham are gathering some momentum. Games now against Fulham are no longer... they're not whipping boys. No one's starting to consider that.
No one's battling. No,
at all. Even when we had our game 2 weeks ago, everything I've seen is none of this is a fluke or them having a little new manager bounce. They haven't got a new manager. They're just a good team all of a sudden. Where do we go? I'm sure people will be thinking there must be a cheap asset or two that I can pick up and I can leave around my squad for a while that will help me. Olaina's looking all right potentially. Lookman's still very cheap.
Olaina's currently, after his 20 points last week, is on 8 points this week, also currently in the team of the week. I would not go down that route. I would buy Adebayo or Anderson at 4.5. I begin to think Anderson is looking a very, very good player. He's on loan from Lyon. And do you know what? I'm going to talk about Anderson on tomorrow's Tottenham podcast on Patreon to show my annoyance with Mourinho. I want to use Anderson as an example of what a good centre half can be, and you don't even have to fucking pay for it.
Yeah,
really good player. Him and Adebayo is a really good combination partnership. What they do really well is to sit quite far off. They don't get drawn in, and because the midfielders, whether it's Anguissa, Lamina, Reed, they all have a tendency to sit in. They make the pitch quite big. And it also means you never see anyone in central areas run at Fulham. Doesn't happen. It's like it gets shut down before it even gets to the back two. And they sit very deep off. So when they kick the ball, and it's one of the reasons why they have large patches of possession, to 72% possession in the first half on Saturday night. They don't get caught out by pressers either because it's too far to go and press. And they've got good footballers who can play in and around you. Those midfield three. Loftus-Cheek obviously drops into pockets as well. They're a good team. Yeah. I don't feel like they're the team that you'd go and buy this week for FPL. I mean, if you've landed and you have McCarthy as your goalkeeper and you want to buy a double goalkeeper and it's cheap, then Areola will do you the job. I think it's absolutely fine. I haven't decided I'm going to play Areola or Johnson yet. I think because Fulham are playing Tottenham, I'm going to play fucking Areola, and I'm going to bottle it.
Yeah.
Anderson, Adebayo, I think they're probably better options about, but I'd probably prefer that to the West Brom on my strategy because I could use them again in 29. There are people obviously who are wild carding at the moment, and Fulham will really appeal to them because you've got the double now and covers the 29, and these cheap assets like Anderson, Adebayo, you've got Liverpool and Man City in the middle, but you're going to bench them anyway.
Yeah, Lookman's cheaper than Rafinha. Lookman's only 5 million at the moment still.
And same could apply to Josh Maja. 5.5 up front. I thought to say he was poor on Saturday would be really harsh, but I was so impressed with him at Everton. I really liked his hold-up play at Burnley as well. He wasn't in this game. He just wasn't in it. Maybe because it was a back three from Sheffield United, that as he was playing as a one primarily, that it was a little bit harder for him to find space and stuff. But he just wasn't in it at all, which would be a little bit concerning. Personally, that's not the way I'd be going. I would rather pay the extra for your likes of Watkins at that kind of value and stuff. But particularly for wildcarders, Fulham are really interesting at the moment. I think probably I'd go Adebayo over Anderson because he's a bigger threat from set pieces. I think that's proven just looking at the returns this season, but not a lot in it, actually.
But Sheffield United, I feel like them basically being relegated, let's be honest, early is almost a bit better than having a fighting chance towards the end, because you get to the point where you're in February, you're like, you know what, we're going down. Let's not try and dress this up as we've still got a chance, and let's start thinking and planning for the future. Whereas when you're in it and you're close, like say Newcastle, they're like, we can still survive. We can still survive. Let's make a change now for the sake of trying to survive. Whereas Sheffield United can take a step back and say, well, we're going down. So what's the best strategy for us to come back up again? And that's stability in Chris Wilder, which is why I think they probably are not getting ants in their pants about changing their manager and kind of drastic decisions that you might see elsewhere. So they're gone. I'm not buying any assets. Neither are you. But at least they're not behaving like a club that are going to do something stupid to try and stay in the Premier League and be sustainable.
They were gone months ago, to be honest with you. We highlighted a run of fixtures from where we said they need to do really well out of these, and they didn't do anything in them. They've long been gone. They were possibly a little bit unfortunate with this, with the penalty incident at the end. I mean, if it's outside the box on the follow-through all day long, that's a free kick, actually. Although I don't quite know what Areola's meant to do different. It's an awkward one, but I think there's plenty of rest would have gone, yeah, that's a penalty, actually. And then they get a draw. Not going to stay up because they don't score goals, right? But also, they don't get battered defensively, and that's worth noting. However, the loss of Chris Basham now, on top of Egan and O'Connell, means that Wilder and Klopp, despite how much they hate each other, they really can have a moan about their luck at centre defence and have a good cuddle and a kiss and a make-up before kick-off at the weekend. You're talking about the future for him, and it's worth mentioning. It doesn't matter for FPL, obviously. You're saying, right, prepare for the future. So I sit there and I just think, just get Ryan Brewster 3 months of football so he's ready to play in the Championship for you next year. That's the sort of thing I'm beginning to think. Like, who's not going to be around? We said about, in the past, about they probably need to play Lundstrom because they're shot in that midfield area, right? They're not good. But if he's going to go in the summer now's the time to pull him out of the team and say, you're not part of this future. Should they give up with a gap of 14 points? No. But I feel like whenever you're chasing anything, if the points margin is bigger than the games you've got left, you're fucked. Trouble. They're 14 points behind. There's 13 games to go. Yeah. They could get to a maximum of 50 points if they win every game. So it could. That's not going to happen, is it? Let's be honest. No, so let's forget about it. 2 points per game would only get them to 33. No, it would get them to 37. Which, to be honest, the way Fulham have picked up now, the improvements of Newcastle and Brighton, we always thought it was going to be a low total. We always kind of thought 32, 33. I mean, it's even worse for them now, in the extent that might not even, 37 points might not even stay up now.
You're right. You're right, indeed. Let's move on to Sunday. We've still got 4 games to get through, James. We've been nearly an hour already chatting. But there'll be a much more in-depth rundown of the West Ham Spurs game that we're talking about tomorrow, because James and I do a show.
Oh, good. Let's skip it now.
Each and every week for the Patreons called Tottenham, where we get into a little bit more detail about Tottenham and West Ham, not just the games that we played, but what's going on with transfers and so on. So if you're a Tottenham or West Ham fan and want a bit more detail, then it might be worth having a look at our Patreon, and we will be giving much more of a deep dive into the game then. I would say that I think the narrative around the game that I have seen, and I'll probably get through my feed and what I'm subscribed to and all the rest of it, probably a bit more of a biased West Ham centric narrative on the game, is not really the reality. I would say that if Spurs had won games recently and you'd been in a good form and the mood around the club was positive, you would have seen that as we played really well, created a lot of chances. We weren't good enough and weren't clinical enough, but it wasn't a toilet performance.
Are you asking for my opinion on that narrative?
I'd think defensively, yeah. You're
well,
a joke.
The reality, to be honest, I wouldn't even say defensively we were a joke, because you had two moments in the game, the goals. I mean, the first one's really bad. The second's also really bad. But I mean, it's a great, Lingard's finish is a brilliant finish, right? It's the only way he can score. It's a great finish. Other than that, Dawson's header, which Loris tipped over the bar, I can't think of a lot else that was a major issue. It's
interesting because I think that the fact that we scored early in both halves,
of course,
played into that a little bit. We're going to sit off a little bit, and I did feel, especially after the second goal, whilst the pressure was piling and Bale was doing bits and trying to get involved, that at any point, if we get you on the counter, we could get you on the counter, because I didn't feel confident that Dyer and Sanchez, if Lingard, Bowen, Antonio, all of these guys are running at your back four, I think we could score again. So getting to 3-1 was just as likely as getting to 2-2, even though you had all the possession and the attempts.
Yeah, completely understand that. I mean, we never turned up till it was 2-0. And you're a good side now, right? I mean, certainly
defensively for sure. I think I was seeing stuff defensively that I was like, these last ditch tackles or clearing the crosses coming in or what have you. You don't want to invite that much pressure, but we're dealing with it, and I trust the players to deal with it.
Craig Dawson, Ben Godfrey, Anderson at Fulham. These are all names that are going to get mentioned and spoken about on Tottenham tomorrow. We can't start now because this podcast will never end. But you're right, second half, I mean, we had a good go, which obviously you should do from 2-0 down, but it wasn't. I've watched Tottenham even against West Ham in the past, like under Sherwood, you beat us 2-0 one year, and we didn't play at any minute at any point. In the second half, we played all right. Admittedly, I feel it was forced on because of the position in terms of the scoreline where, take risks, go out your comfort zone. Bale was great. It was most impactful, certainly league performance. He actually looked fit. That's 3 games in a row now. I spoke after City and said, actually, in his 20 minutes, he just looked right in those 20 minutes.
You need to tell Mourinho that, because they asked Mourinho the question in the
if that fucking prick doesn't start Gareth Bale on Sunday,
he's not fit enough to play
fuck that shit.
In 1 week.
He's got more ability than most of them on one leg, right? Bale should play on Sunday. No doubt about it. No, don't buy him for FPL, by the way, though. Because to be honest, on a serious on that, it's Burnley, then it's Fulham, and you go, great, it's 4-day gap. But then there's only a 3-day gap to Crystal Palace afterwards. And in terms of
and you got the
being a little bit
before that.
Well,
if it matters, you should play. You should rotate. But
to be honest, the best thing for Bale on Thursday would be play an hour, come off again, then start on Sunday. That's the best thing for him at the moment. That game on Thursday, he's basically won. But in terms of the 3 fixtures, Lookman obviously give us real problems in the game at White Hart Lane. So if there was a game is to get left out and then used as an impact again, I think it's probably Fulham. Tighter pitch. It seems that way anyway because of the camera angle as well, where there's a bit more room in the 2 home games against Burnley and Crystal Palace, I would think. So no, don't consider Bale for the double. But yes, he should play on Sunday. He was great when he come on. Kane could have hauled. I'll talk about him a lot tomorrow when we do a podcast on triple captaincy options for next week.
But it definitely wasn't his best game. He didn't feel like he was catching his
Fabianski didn't make a lot of saves. Is reality, right?
He only had 4 shots on target.
Bale's at the bar. I mean, you can say we're unlucky at the end with the Sun one, but in the first instance, he's lucky that it comes off him and goes that way. Exactly, right? But it was Kane literally half a foot wide of both posts, the free kick as well. So there was plenty of efforts. The way we tried to attack in the second half was progressive and decent. And to be honest, like at the point when Bale hit the bar, if we'd have equalised, I think we'd have won.
I think we could have hung on for a draw, but the momentum was with you. I would say that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then it would have put the emphasis on us to actually have to attack a little bit more.
I'm not sure I think it had gone so far one way. I'm not sure it could come back the other way. Plus, we had so many attacking players on. It was the best thing for you to do as well was to try and absorb because, as you highlighted, like if you had a 3-on-3 against the likes of Dyer and Sanchez, obviously you could exploit us. It was for both teams. It was the best strategy to go with second half. Congratulations, you deserved it. I mean,
I just feel like everyone's looking at it. Her Spurs were awful. Like I was not put off buying any Spurs attacking assets from what I saw yesterday. If people were thinking of still triple captaining Kane or getting Son, I was not put off at all because I thought going forward you still got the potential. Defensively, doesn't seem stable at all. Don't trust you defensively at all.
We'll be all right. We've got the best defensive manager in the world.
Apparently so. And even West Ham.
I'll save that for tomorrow, mate. I'm going to fucking rip him apart, mate.
Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, when Jay Lings did what he did against Aston Villa, you asked me a very interesting question. Would you buy Souček or Lingard? And right now, I think I said Lingard just because of how further forward he plays. At 5.9 million, he's looking like a good asset, between now and the end of the season. The only thing that puts me off is our fixtures. But his movement has given us something that we didn't have before. And I still think I would like to find a way of getting him into my squad, Jesse Lingard.
Well, you won't be doing that before game week 29, mate.
I will not.
No, I mean, that's honestly, that's the reality.
Not good enough. The fixtures are horrible. And that's why I've sold one of my 3 West Ham assets and I'm not buying anymore. But yeah, he's looking good.
Not only are you one of only 6 teams that doesn't have a double game week this week, you also have Manchester City away.
Yeah, this week's a joke.
Leeds at home, you can say good for attacking assets. Doesn't make you feel any more confident about defensive assets. Then it's Manchester United away as well. So let's be realistic. I think they're one West Ham where, again, if you're on that wild card now, you're possibly setting up to leave 1 or 2 on the bench. And if you want to set up now and leave Jesse Lingard on your bench, fine. But I think you'll probably find you're going to end up benching him as well in game week 28. Now, I don't know if that's a little bit too much. In fact, he can't play in 28, can he? He'd be ineligible.
It's a loan. So
correct.
Yeah. Wait till post wildcard. This game week 30, game week 31 wildcard's getting more and more interesting for a lot of people now. Should we talk about Aston Villa Leicester?
No, it's just one more thing to add because I've seen a lot of mind the gap tweets.
Okay.
And us Tottenham fans know that it's not clever to go shouting about mind the gap, right? And I'll talk about that story in terms of how that backfired on us tomorrow's podcast as well.
Yeah. I'm not jumping in on any of that.
You are 9 points clear of us. I know. I see all the yap. You're 9 points clear of us. You play Manchester City this week, and then we play them 3 games before you play again. Yep. By the time you play Leeds, we might be level on points.
You might be. Do you think you will be?
I think there's every chance.
Interesting. Aston Villa 1, Leicester 2. I mean, Leicester jumped into an early lead, looking good. Barnes, Maddison, even Vardy popping up with an assist and reminding a lot of us, like you and me, who don't own any of their assets, that we can't keep ignoring them.
No, I to be honest, Barnes is one that's just gone by every week, and Maddison's not really any different. I would, if Maddison was fit, I'd sway for Maddison on this week because of the fixtures. In terms of Arsenal, as I keep saying, they're getting better defensively. I think you see that again yesterday. And Burnley are one who are liable to allow shots from distance, a la Maddison, rather than let a Harvey Barnes get in and running at them in 1v1 isolated situations. So I would prefer Maddison personally. If I was free hitting this week, I would probably have James Maddison rather than Barnes. But obviously, he could have a knock as well, James Maddison. So I feel like it's maybe not the right week for Harvey Barnes. Not that he isn't playing extraordinarily well. He really is. And there are good fixtures afterwards in terms of Brighton and Sheffield United, which mean I wouldn't rule them out this week. I think for me personally, I probably need to walk into a few injuries to be considering Leicester. Ironically, in my position with Ings and Bamford, I could move both of them to Vardy and Kane this week. I'm pretty sure I've got enough to make that happen if I wanted to. But I don't see me going down that route because I can't see me captaining Jamie Vardy, even though the fixtures look really appealing ahead of 29. And also, there's a good chance that I'd get to 28. I've got Sheffield United at home, and I'd be thinking, crap, that double has happened for Everton and Villa. I do want to buy Ollie Watkins. And then I'm in that horrible position where I go, I can't sell Kane. He's got 29 and good fixture in 30. Am I going to sell Jamie Vardy because Watkins got a double when Vardy's got Sheffield United at home? And I think, I just don't want to put myself in that position, mate.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind, Calvert-Lewin would be my other forward. So it would almost have to be Vardy that went for me. So I can't see me going down that route. They are playing very, very well, though. Very, very well. I think there is a good possibility that they'll finish second.
They're the most consistent out of the top 6 or 7 at the moment, other than obviously Manchester
I just looked through the team. I think like the central midfield partnership, Tielemans and Ndidi, is the best in the league, in my opinion. As a pair, I'm not saying it's a better midfield than Manchester City, but as a pair together, they're the best, in my opinion. Barnes is absolutely flying. Maddison's back to form. Jamie Vardy's Jamie Vardy. They've got 3 really good fullbacks. Admittedly, Justin's obviously now out till probably the autumn. But Luke Thomas was great at left back yesterday. Really good. We saw Pereira playing his higher position. They lost Fofana as well. Suyunchu's return has come perfect timing. Got the squad depth as well. Really good. Good side. Honestly, good side. I've not got a lot more to add about that. A lot of their assets will be a lot more expensive next season than what they are now, I think. Like your Maddison's, Barnes and that. Even not so much Pereira and Castagna and that, but the central defenders.
Pereira's already quite premiumly priced.
The central defenders are going to possibly be more like 5.5s next season.
Yeah.
Really good. I wouldn't put anybody off. I think defensively, I would still go Pereira. I wouldn't read too much into the whole playing right wing thing. But I would still go Pereira. I can't believe, for example, by the way, that Leicester had zero knowledge about Jack Grealish's injury because every single one of us on Twitter knew that Jack Grealish was probably injured. So I don't believe there's any chance that they were saying, he's picked Pereira out there because of Grealish. No, he's done it for some other reason because he knows Grealish ain't probably playing. I think midfield-wise, because of the injury, you'd lean Barnes rather than Maddison. But if Maddison's fit for this particular game week, I'd rather go Maddison. And if it's landed right for someone for Jamie Vardy, I won't put you off. I mean, you say you're Arsenal the weekend, but he's got an extraordinary record against Big Six teams as well. So that doesn't particularly matter. Good assets, all through them. I don't own any of them, and I'm probably not going to. I'm playing this game wrong, aren't I?
On the flip side, a lot of us have been talking about Aston Villa because of
exactly.
The number
they're falling apart,
now,
and I'm going to go and buy them.
Are you still? That's simple. Just sum them up. Are you still going to look and buy Aston Villa assets potentially?
Yeah,
and
I think I'll buy Watkins. The news on Grealish, by the way, depending on reports, he could be a month, he could be a week, he could be back next week. There's varying reports in terms of whether it's shin, calf. No one seems to have the correct information. Just the information was he's injured, and it's
his leg.
Villa, for whatever reason, did not want that news to get out. Dean Smith says he's going to go and chase people. Did you see the Athletic are even reporting about fancy Premier League managers all new?
Yeah. I saw that. And there was a lot of the team or backroom staff or what have you transferred Grealish out on the last few days before the deadline or what have you.
They're obviously not the same team without Jack Grealish. It doesn't mean that Ollie Watkins can't get chances against A, Leeds, because everyone gets chances against Leeds, and B, Sheffield United. So it's a great double, right? Wolves 27 would be an awkward fixture with or without Grealish because of how Wolves set up. And then possibly you've got Newcastle, who are now quite open, and Everton in 28. So, I mean, and then I'm landing on 29. I mean, Watkins just fixes so many problems for me, even if that 28 double doesn't happen. Again, similar to Calvert-Lewin. All right, I've got Newcastle away. That's still a good single fixture, isn't it? So I think I can see me ending up with Ollie Watkins this week. Wouldn't go near the likes of Barkley. I think I'd be more inclined to go Bertrand Traore at the moment. Possibly even El Ghazi if he stays in the team, because he had that spell in December, didn't he? And he looked like he was going to be a real threat because he was having so many efforts on goal and stuff. So El Ghazi's a real punt, if you like. If you want a real punt for this week, El Ghazi might be your man, but you need the Grealish injury information, I think. I've got Konsa already defensively. The intention for me was probably only to play him in this particular double and then in the blank in any case. That will cover up a little bit of the Martinez stuff for me this particular week. I can't see me adding a third now, though, because the intention was obviously to go Grealish. Barkley does not appeal at all the way he's playing at the moment. And neither today. We suggested last week and the week before that is there a concern that they've played such a consistent team so much? Is it finally catching up with them a little bit? But I'd still look at them fixtures, and I think particularly Watkins could still be a really good asset in the next few weeks. And in an odd way, I look at it, same with a little bit with Kane this week. From an FPL perspective, the fact that they've just had blanks, I don't mind that. Because I think less other people are going to go and buy them.
Now, a lot of the regular listeners who don't, not patrons or what have you, won't know that we do a show for our patrons on Fridays called the Differential Show, and we also, part of that show is to predict the scores of what we think is going to happen with the game.
Why are you reading out the one I get right every week?
No, well, all I'm saying
1 out of 10.
All I'm saying is that for the Arsenal-Man City game, I thought City were going to run riot, 3-0, comfortably win. You said 1-0. After 2 minutes, I was rubbing my hands, mate. I thought, here we go. James is going. They're going to teach James a lesson here. Don't go against City. And even with Raheem Sterling being the shortest guy on the pitch and the one that managed to get his head on the ball, you're thinking, come on, Arsenal, this is not any good. But they were better as the game got on. Although City can do this, they can just control a game so well.
City in the first 20 minutes or so was fucking porn, mate.
I wonder what the possession stat would be. At least 80%, 75, 80%.
I don't even know what Arsenal could have particularly done different in the first 20 minutes. They could have engaged and City would have just destroyed them, I think. I thought Arsenal tactically, it was clear. It was by design, stay in the game and then you give yourself a chance. Although Arsenal's best effort in goal was by Cancelo. Quite why Edison decided to kick it as well rather than just catch it. But did he think that was an intentional back pass? Catch the thing, you fucking melon.
Well, he just didn't want to risk it.
But to be honest, maybe he was trying to make sure that Alisson stayed in goal for Brazil. I have no idea. But largely, I mean, honestly, they were so good at the start. So it was just a pleasure to watch, especially watching it against Arsenal as well. I was like, oh, these lot are cheering me right up. You're going to fucking destroy you. But in the second, City was still in control.
Yeah.
That you never really felt like Arsenal were going to score. And it's now 3 times we've seen this. Southampton away in December, the Chelsea game, second half at Stamford Bridge, and now this game as well, where they now believe their confidence is such that they actually believe, rather than putting themselves in a position where they could get countered on, which is what's happened to, think of the Tottenham game, where they leave themselves open and they get sucker punched, not the recent one, obviously game week 9. They're going, no, we'll do that to you. And the best chances that City had in the second half was when they broke on Arsenal, ironically. Think of the Cancelo chance. There was a couple of runs that Gabriel Jesus had, particularly later in the game. And they're evolving. They're becoming a machine. Ruben Diaz is every chance. So good. To be honest, I've been saying all year, Jack Grealish, player of the year. And a few other people have been saying sort of Harry Kane and stuff. It's fair enough. You begin thinking about it and you think, he must be in contention. Genuinely. People are talking about Gundogan now. Ruben Diaz as well. Must be. It's a sign of the season, whatever he cost. Because he's transformed them. He's transformed them. I realise a lot must have come internally from John Stones, but I think Ruben Diaz has had a big impact on John Stones as well. Defensively, looks so much better. Zinchenko looks a better player every time he plays to me. I still feel like he's a bit of a weak link sometimes defensively, and he can get caught out. I think he looks at Diaz inside him and thinks, worst case scenario, just going to give the ball back to him.
It's mad because I look at my FPL team and when I see the 2 City defenders, I go, there's 12 points. Assuming they play, I just feel every game, there's 12 points.
Cancelo should have had another haul yesterday. Yeah. He should. I mean, it's beautiful build up in the work for him, but he should finish it once he gets in front of goal. Cancelo's due another haul. I guess the scary one for Cancelo owners a little bit would be that he's played. Did he play at Everton or was he left out? He was left out, wasn't he? No, he played at left back. He played at left back at Everton, didn't he? Yeah.
He played a full 90 minutes. He's not missed a game since Sheffield United.
So you probably think he's due, but the position that he takes within the game, you can say, oh yeah, Walker or Zinchenko can play inverted as well. Not fucking like that. That guy basically goes, once they play with a back four, but when they have the ball, he goes where he wants. But it's always a little bit cautious of holding Rodri's hand normally. And Rodri's been very good the last 2 months. And Fernandinho, I thought, was great yesterday, by the way, as well. You can't believe he was 36, the way he was getting around the pitch. He kind of sits there, but then has license to go wherever he wants and then go beyond normally Rodri. Extraordinary player, Cancelo, really good.
We've got a show tomorrow, the People's Poll. It's not a Patreon one, it's for everybody, free of charge. And we're talking about triple captain options. Let's be real. Who has the best double? It's Man City. West Ham at home and Wolves at home. I don't care how good we have become defensively. They slap us each and every time. And I think they'll beat Wolves. I think they've got 2 home games, and I think they're going to do bits in both. I really do. But I think the problem is, who would you have the balls to triple captain from Manchester City in a double game week when they've got Champions League as well?
To be honest, those West Ham and Wolves games, you can see the pattern of what those games will be like.
1-0. They'll score in the first half and they just control the game.
And if they get a second, great. They get a second and they'll stroll through it. And that's how you'd see both of them games being. So, to be honest, if I was sitting there with treble City defensive going into this game week, I'd be thinking I was counting the points.
Yeah.
Antonio could give City a problem, but he's likely to be so isolated.
We're not going to get the ball, mate. I know.
Yeah.
We're not going to get the ball.
And that's not a slight on you either.
No, not at all.
Them.
It's just they're that good. I'll be if I buy Kevin De Bruyne this week, I'll be very tempted to TC him with the 2 fixtures. Very tempted.
We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Well, let's wrap up the games, James, if we can, in the next 3 minutes, and then we could squeeze in some questions from the Twitterati as well. Manchester United 3, Newcastle 1. First half definitely wasn't as straightforward. I really feel there's a narrative around Newcastle, because I listened to a little bit of 606, the phone in on BBC and stuff yesterday, where Newcastle are sleepwalking into a relegation battle and Fulham are playing well and they're going to catch Newcastle and they've lost 8 of their last 10 fixtures in the league and so on and so on. And people are missing a big part of the story, which is what you have talked about. They've been better recently, and they've been better yesterday for the first half as well, maybe ran out of steam. And part of adapting and changing the way they play, and Steve Bruce used the phrase have a go and having a go quite a lot in his post-match press conference, where he talked about we're going to have a go, and we had a go. And we've changed. He used the word change as well in their approach to games and having a go. I feel like there is this change happening, and people are ignoring it for the fact that they're just looking at the results and the fact that they've lost 8 out of the last 10 and are sleepwalking into relegation. They were always in that battle. They need this change in style and performance to translate into results pretty quickly, though.
Before Daniel James scored, United second, I was watching the game thinking that Newcastle really could win this. Really, really could. From 3-1, their head's gone a little bit, and I think that's a little bit acceptable, because one of the things I spoke about, going back to when we spoke after the Southampton game, when this change became clear that it was more than just an Everton game. This was, okay, this is a tactical structure they're going to try and employ now, was that their games would have more goals. And one of the reasons for that being is when you try and implement something that is such a change. This is such a sizable change for Newcastle. Do you remember they played with backs behind the ball for 5-6 years, right? Nearly every game go, we don't even want the ball. You go and play. We'll defend with banks of 5 and stuff. We're going to make it difficult for you. It's such a sizable change that it takes a while to actually see the benefits of something like this. And it's a massive change for the fitness of the players. I see John Joe Shelby running around like a madman. Normally, he's not a player that gets in either penalty box. It just doesn't. He doesn't work up and down. I see him running around. He's going and pressing. Joe Willock, is really fitting into the system really well. He was on loan from Arsenal, and he's just waiting for him. Almiron looks great, you know. I don't really see that converting to FPL returns. He looks great. Saint Maximin is obviously a player they've been without for basically 3 months. He's now fit. Scored yesterday. He could have got more than the one, by the way. I think he had 3 shots on target, I want to say, Saint Maximin. Yeah. Forced De Gea into a couple of good saves, although De Gea probably should have saved the goal itself. I'm really impressed with them at the moment. Although this is the time to mention that Fulham do play Newcastle in game week 38, just in case you hadn't ringed that fixture yet. But I think Newcastle will stay up. I honestly think this will click, and they're going to give some teams who, on paper, the face of it, like, to be honest, Tottenham in game week 30, West Ham in game week 32, maybe even Villa in game week 28, the way it's going, they're going to give these teams a more difficult game than what I think they do realise.
Yeah.
I think they do realise. And if they get Callum Wilson back fit as well, and I've heard there's every chance he's got a chance of being back for the West Brom game in game week 27, that would be the difference for him, because then there's the goal scorer as well.
By game week 31, when they play Burnley and even West Ham 32, they'll have had 5 or 6 really good fixtures in that run. I think we could see Newcastle with enough of a buffer that might see them safe. But it's not going to be easy. They do need to start getting results in the coming weeks. Not looking at any of that.
It's not a great running, because, to be honest, if you start with that from Villa in 28, Brighton 29, Tottenham, Burnley, West Ham, okay, that's kind of middle of the road. Then Liverpool, Arsenal, Leicester, Man City as well.
That's hard.
Grim.
Finishing up with Sheffield United and Fulham. You could see imagine that, Newcastle versus Fulham, last day of the season. Whoever wins stays up. That could be a cracker.
I'll still be watching Tottenham struggle to finish 9th away to Leicester, though.
Always Captain Bruno? That's a question that's come up repeatedly on Twitter. I mean, the guy is a machine. 190 FPL points now. You're talking about who's the player of the season. I mean, for sheer output and consistency and talisman.
Yeah, he's in the conversation.
Bruno's got to be there. He's got to be there. He just keeps ticking along. I had him as my captain in Sky. And obviously City had gone and got all the returns, and Diaz had picked up man of the match and passing tiers. And I'm thinking, Bruno, come on. Yeah, at the end of the game, goal and an assist. Off we go. Thank you very much. Tidy as
he got himself a very untypical assist. Where on the first time round, it wasn't even clear that he got the touch. But
I think we could make a compilation video of the world's greatest assists that are not assists. But yeah, he did touch it.
No. Yeah, I mean, it was a decisive touch in what happened as well. It wasn't like it hit him, and it was a decisive touch in what happened.
Quite meant it like that.
And then obviously the penalty as well. And I'd highlighted that I thought this. You talked about my City prediction. I predicted this to be a draw. So really fancied that Newcastle would give them a game, and they did. And I also felt that the diamond system was a little bit like what happened when Everton played there in the first half, that space for Fernandes would become really difficult. And to be honest, until Daniel James scored, he was frustrated most of that game. He wasn't doing a lot. He wasn't hurting Newcastle in any way at all. But his consistency is such that he'll have 1 or 2 big moments every game, and there's every chance he'll stick them away.
Yeah, and they don't have to be on a plate. Like his goal the other week with the volley into the top corner. He's a class.
Well, even in that Everton game itself, look at the goal he scored.
Fantastic.
Brilliant.
Cool. There we go. There's a good rundown of the games, James. I've had a look through the Twitter questions. I'm going to summarize them for you very simply in a second. Do you want to give the listeners an idea of what we've got left for you for the rest of this week? I say left. It's only Monday. We mentioned People's Poll tomorrow.
People's Poll tomorrow, which the vote's already been done, did it yesterday, is going to be focused on triple captaincy options for the rest of the season, not just for game week 26. We're looking at some alternative ideas as well. All the big names, the Kanes, the Fernandezes, the KDBs, the Calvert-Lewin, I'm beginning to hear mentioned for this week. We'll look at all of them.
We've just negated 50% of the questions on Twitter by announcing that.
Brilliant.
Because it's literally Kane, Calvert-Lewin, Kane, Watkins, Kane.
We'll talk about what we're doing. By the way, what are you doing? What are you doing chip-wise this week? Don't say who if you're using triple captain.
Undecided.
Okay. I will be most likely using the triple captaincy chip, but we'll talk about it tomorrow.
If I use a chip this week, James, it can only be triple captain. Put it that way. I'm not using my free hit this week. So
you've used bench boost every week. I ask you that and forget. Yeah. Is it because it was so shit? That's why I forgot.
Yeah, probably. It wasn't bad. I got up to 90 something points, but it was just that everybody else got 120s and 130s that week.
To be fair, you might decide to free hit this week and you might forget anyway, so no one's going to trust you to do that.
Yeah. So Wednesday,
you have to take life so seriously, you know.
I'm chilling, mate. Wednesday, we have Sky.
Wednesday's Sky. Thursday clash of the correspondents has said Gemma Baggies, Spirit Blues, West Brom, Everton. Friday will be streaming at 3:00. Then again for deadline, 10 a.m. on Saturday. Before the Aston Villa and Everton fixture gets announced for game week 28 at 11:01 a.m. on Saturday morning. Patrons have Q&A today. Tottenham tomorrow, which this is the sort of shit we need to keep behind closed doors, I think, anyway. Wednesday will be patrons poll. They haven't decided on topics yet. Thursday will be quiz based on defeated champions. And Friday will be our differential show game week 26 preview.
Yeah, incredible. I'm just having a look at the questions that we've had on Twitter, James. Very heavily dominated by triple captain talk, whether you saw enough from Kane or DCL to justify them being triple captains. I think for me personally, as a very simple summary, I did see enough from Kane, and we will get into it in a little bit more detail. The second biggest topic that is being talked about is that Villa versus Leicester debate now. People asking about Maddison versus Barnes. You've got FPL Comic Nerd asking about Maddison or Barnes. And people asking what to do with Jack Grealish. I mean, if you're a Grealish owner, James, would you hold or would you move on?
Well, you need the info, don't you?
This is the challenge.
The thing is with him, right? Let's be honest. If he's back for the weekend, he's going to play. It's not going to be a half-hour cameo. He'll play. So you need to wait on the information. What's a little bit concerning is Dean Smith's obviously not been that forthcoming with that information so far. But I think by the time Friday comes around, we should have a clearer indication. Think of it like this as well. The majority of us knew on Friday from the rumours that there was a good chance he was injured. That won't be any different this week.
We have a question coming in. I don't know if you can do this, James. Let me put out FPL Tractor. He'd like one of us just to say, fuck off Paul Lambert in the pod, please. I've just done it. James, you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, fuck off Mourinho.
Jumping in on managers. I mean, Moyes is the messiah at the moment. And let's leave the last question to go to Ketan Chopra because we have so much more to give you this week. What could be the potential blind spots for people taking a wild card this upcoming game week?
As in what teams you'll miss out on?
Things that people might think, you know what, we'll get distracted by teams that have doubles when there's better options.
To be honest, the teams that have a single fixture, none of them massively appeal. But I would say if I was on wild card, I'd possibly have a little bit of Brighton maybe for 29, but only a cheap asset. Because actually, looking further ahead, there's not many weeks where you'd start. So you might think that Lewis Dunk's a little bit too expensive. Maybe Sanchez, good rotating goalkeeper. But again, you're not going to pick Sanchez in goal this week for the double. Leeds, I think, could be overlooked. But a lot of people have been so aware of their situation, they'll make individual choices. Newcastle could be the one, you know. Honestly, I'm not joking. It could be the one that everybody's potentially just going to completely miss out on. But you're not getting a Newcastle player on a wild card, I don't think. You could, if you got some serious cojones, leave Callum Wilson in now on a wild card. I hope he's back for 29. I can't be advising that. Defensively, I still feel they're going to concede goals. So from an FPL perspective, no, I don't think they are. Yourselves, you've got Man City away this week. What's there to miss? Southampton, I think people are aware the 27 doubled, so they make specific decisions. Arsenal, but then we've highlighted already, Arsenal for 31 looks incredible. So I feel like, why are you going to force it in now? You can't really make a case for people like Saka when there's like Gundogan and stuff sitting around and just can't make the case for it.
Indeed. There we go. That was an enjoyable look back at the games in the weekend and what happened. I think I was fairly soft on the West Ham victory over James, so I'll save my needles.
That's probably because you spent all fucking day yesterday hard, I should imagine.
It was an interesting day. I'll tell you what, for people
not sure we want that story.
But I mean, emotionally, it's very draining. That game was very, very draining, especially the circumstance it was. So people that get to this late in the pod deserve it. I spent the last 5 minutes watching on TV 3 minutes behind real time, and SofaScore has because the stream was delayed, right? The stream had a
3 minutes.
It was about 2.5, 3 minutes. I think it paused a couple of times throughout, so I just watched rather than.
Why'd you look at your phone during the game? Why do you have alerts?
No, only the last 5 minutes, because SofaScore's got real time, and I was like, I need to know, because if something bad's going to happen,
really,
and shit in my cornflakes, I need to know. And I had dual going on at the same time, so I celebrated 3 minutes before I actually knew the game had ended on TV, and then could rest in peace for the last 3 minutes.
So when that all shit happened with Son at the post, did you still shit yourself, even though you knew it was all right?
No, because I'd seen that there was.
How can
no
you do
goal.
that? That's so bizarre, mate.
I wouldn't do it for any other game, but yesterday I just felt the nerves of being in that winning situation and then seeing how many attempts you'd had. So yeah, fun and games.
Imagine if you'd have scored again and you ruined that moment for yourself.
I would have still celebrated like a madman, jumping around.
Don't get you sometimes.
It's too. The result is almost more important than. I would have been less emotional.
Just take a nap at 12 o'clock, mate, and just look at your phone at 10 to 2, and you save yourself all that art problem, mate.
Save yourself a little bit of trouble as well if you did that for Spurs games.
Yeah. Anyway, tomorrow.
Listeners. Appreciate all of the support, interaction on Twitter. Thank you for sending in your questions. We really does keep us motivated and going. Stay safe wherever you are. Hopefully they're rolling out millions of vaccines. If you had it, much love to you. I think everybody over the age of 40, James, I reckon by the end of March. So I'll be in that bracket and done and dusted. So yeah, stay safe wherever you are. Stay tuned. Hit subscribe so you get notified as soon as any pods go live. And we'll be back at you tomorrow. Ciao for now.
I don't really know what to say to that because I'm 3 years younger than you, but I've been gone to Spurs every week for 30 years. I look about 30 years older than you. On that basis, thanks everyone. Be nice to each other. Cue music, please, man, child.